last week I shared with you guys how we built a shed on our farm and made a small living quarters inside of that shed. We moved in late summer, this past summer, and we moved in with the home very unfinished. So we had all of our basic finishes done. We hired a painter to come in and just paint all the wall, doors, trims, everything white. We just have concrete floor in our house. Everything is just super simple and basic. And we knew when we moved in during the summertime, it would go a long time before we got a lot of these home projects done. We don't even have shelving in any of the closets, the bathrooms, or the pantry yet. We literally just moved in. We were so busy on the farm. But now that things are starting to slow down, I just want to take these winter days and catch up and just do some of these home projects that have been on my mind to get done. And I know that the winter time is a great time for me to do them because outside chores and demands of the farm slow way down, and I can just spend more time inside tackling some of these little home projects on my list. Our goal when we were building was to get it done fast and in budget. So that meant we knew we were going to have to move in and still do a lot of these home projects once we were already living there, which is totally fine because we've been able to do them at our own pace, and it has given me time to really think through how I want things done. But I really want to take advantage of this slower time and try to knock out a lot of them this winter. I'm starting in the kitchen because that's the place that I spend the most time in. And a couple months ago, I had my cousin come out and do some beadboard for me. I originally was only going to do the backsplash, but then I decided to beadboard the whole kitchen wall. And I've been needing to come back and finish painting the trim around this window. It's just something I've been pushing off, but I finally took the time to do it. And I'm also just wanting to add some simple touches in my kitchen, like this pot rail above the stove. I have a little frame that I found at an antique shop that is just going to be perfect to cover up an outlet that we have there. So I'm ordering a print to go in there, and I found these little copper pots to hang up above the stove. So this is something that is just an easy, cheap way to decorate this space. Eventually I would maybe like to do a range or something above the stove, but for now I'm just wanting to add something simple to this space. Time of year, I try to do a batch of bone broth every week, so that way I'm always using it in different recipes and just trying to incorporate that into our diet. I find that in the summertime I don't do very well with making it every week and serving it. It's definitely one of those things that I have to think about. So during the winter time I try to take advantage of spending a little bit more time inside and in the kitchen, so that way I can stock my freezer with some good healthy bone broth, but also just keep it in the refrigerator and incorporate it into some recipes during the week. I purchased this hutch at a local antique store last winter, and we just now got a chance to move it inside the house. The reason for that is because the way the hutch is built, I was a little bit worried about not having it braced to the wall. So we finally took the time to properly brace it to the wall, so that way if the kids would happen to climb on it or anything, it won't fall over. But when I bought this hutch, I knew I wanted it for my grain mill and my grains and all of my bread making supplies. Because we're in a smaller space and we don't have a basement, there's really no room to store a lot of this stuff. So I thought having a hutch just for my grains and all of my bread and flour supplies would be very handy and save me a lot of space on my countertops and in my pantry. I also thought it would just add to the space because it's such a pretty piece of furniture, and eventually I would like to add some color to the wall behind it, maybe some more beadboard there, and get some pretty curtains on my windows. But for now, I'm just having fun with the dishes and jars I already have and decorating this hutch to add a little bit more to my kitchen and save me on some space. I found that roasting beef bones before adding them to the slow cooker really helps to cut down on the fat in your broth. So I always do that step first, and then I just put them in my Instant Pot, cover them with some water, maybe some vegetable scraps if I have it, and just set it on slow cook. I plan to make a short rib soup later on this week, so I also wanted to get some bread going to serve with that soup. This time of year, I really like to try new recipes because I spend so much more time inside and in my kitchen compared to the summertime when I'm just so busy, and any inside time that I have, I'm usually working on the business or emails, and I don't really have a lot of time in the kitchen. So I just do the same things, meat, vegetables over and over. But during the wintertime, I really like to spend a little bit more time and try some new recipes. The short rib soup recipe I'm trying this week, my sister sent to me, and every other time that I have made short ribs, I haven't been a huge fan, and that's because of how fatty they are. So I'm hoping that this soup recipe, it calls for trimming the fat off of the short ribs. I'm hoping it turns out a little bit different and that this will be a go-to recipe that I can put in my rotation of meals this winter. We have had a pretty warm fall here, but now the forecast is calling for some snow, and it's been pretty wet here lately, so we decided to move our cows off of our grazing acres and put them on one smaller field to start feeding them hay for the winter time. Our herd eats about 3 of these big round bales every day. We usually roll out one bale so that way they have a nice place to bed and they can kind of graze on it as they go. And then we put 2 bales in bale rings, and that gives them plenty of hay until we can come out here again tomorrow. So this is an everyday chore, but this time of year it's really important to get out and check the herd every day. We do that pretty much every day all year long, but especially this time of year with this weather, when it's really wet or cold, you just want to make sure that everything is properly bedded, they have plenty of hay, and nothing gets sick. And also to make sure that nothing is frozen, that they have access to good water. And we also check their mineral feeders and make sure those are full, because extra minerals when we're feeding hay like this is really important. I've had the bone broth going for about a day in the slow cooker. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get the big chunks of bones out. And I always freeze those for the puppy because these are the marrow bones and he just loves chewing on them. So I keep a bag of those in the freezer for him. And then I'm going to go ahead and strain the rest of my bone broth into jars so that way I can use it for my soup recipe tonight. And then I also have an extra jar that I'm going to throw in the freezer so that way next week I can use it in a different recipe. This is the new recipe that I'm trying this week. My sister shared it with me, and it's from the blog Pinch of Yum. And it is a short rib soup recipe. So you add in some ginger and Korean spicy sauce, and then you top the soup at the end with ramen noodles. So this was one of those recipes that I definitely had to plan ahead for and go to the grocery store, because I don't keep these sort of ingredients on hand. It is a very different type of recipe than I'm used to cooking, but I was excited to try the short ribs in a soup recipe like this. As I mentioned earlier, I've never been a huge fan of the short ribs, which is surprising to a lot of people because I sell our beef every weekend at the farmer's market, and the short rib actually seems to be one of those cuts that a lot of people want. But I've also noticed that everybody usually buys them for one certain recipe that they love, and they say they yield just the most tender and flavorful beef, which hasn't been my experience, but I'm hoping to find a recipe that I like for the short ribs so that way I can incorporate them more in our weekly meals, because you do get a lot of short ribs off of one beef. This is definitely a cut that you don't have to keep. You could ground up into ground beef, but I'm always looking at new cuts to try and new recipes to learn for cooking these different types of cuts. While the soup is finishing off in the slow cooker, I'm going to go ahead and get our bread in the oven for dinner tonight. And my dad is actually on his way up to the farm right now with our breeding bulls. So it is time to turn them out for breeding season. So that way our cows that all had calves in September can get rebred to have babies next September. These bulls have been at a different farm that we rent, so when it's not breeding season, we like to take them away from the cows altogether, just at a different farm, and then we don't have to worry about them. And they actually had a vet appointment before coming up here just to make sure that they're breeding sound and ready to go. And it got dark on us, but my dad is bringing them back now, and that way we can unload them off the trailer and get them out with our cows. Just got to get used to it getting dark at 5 o'clock. They want to go find the cows. Okay.
They put the thing up on the other end so they can't. The other cows, they just walk right back around.
It looks like they're going to do the same. Come on, boys. Like, actually, now that I hear the cows, I think I will go.
So the lights were blinding.
Oh, I thought you said you needed light.
No, I said kill the lights.
I hope you guys enjoyed that little segment of bringing the bulls out to the cows. Even though it got dark on us, I tried to save some of the audio so you guys could see really what was going on. And that's something I'm going to try to start incorporating more in future videos. Maybe do a little bit less of the full voiceover style and just share more in real time what's happening on the farm. I think that might be a bit more helpful with the type of content that I'm sharing. So hopefully it works out to share more of that style, more real time, and what's going on the farm. It is very typical in farm life to be inside working on something and then have to run outside and take care of something. But now I'm back inside, and I decided to saute a little bit of our kale from our garden with some butter to serve along with this soup. I always try to incorporate some sort of bread or potato and then a fresh vegetable. So I'm thankful that we had some of these cool season crops going so well in our garden, and it worked out really well to serve it with this soup. On the recipe blog, it actually called for sauteing spinach to serve with the soup, but kale is something that I had on hand from the garden, so that worked out really well. It was kind of an afterthought, but I'm glad that I remembered to do it. This meal turned out really good, and it was a great way to use the short ribs. We have an area on our farm that we call the cedar groves. So it really is just a little nook of one of our pastures, and there is a bunch of cedar trees back here. It is such a pretty area on the farm. The cows love it during the summertime. They always come back and lay back here. I think the cedar trees are just like a natural fly repellent, so they love to lay under the branches. And it's also just a really beautiful place on the farm in the wintertime. It's one of my favorite places to go back, and I actually have like dreams of coming out here when it's snowing and cutting down a Christmas tree, which they are calling for some snow in the forecast next week, so I'm really excited to come back to this area and see what it looks like with all the snow. I decided to cut a few branches today though and make some pretty fresh winter arrangements. My sister shared with me a bunch of dry flowers that she had from her garden, and I thought adding the cedar would be the perfect little greenery to put together some wintertime florals in my home. This truly is the season for me to slow down and spend more time inside, just pouring into my little home and decorating it, making it my own. I am so excited to do more winter projects this year. I have a very long to-do list, so we'll see what all we can get done. I plan to just approach it one project at a time and not getting stressed out over all the little things that need to be done, but just enjoying this season and allowing myself the time to take to pour into my home, because I know that's something when we get really busy in the spring again, I won't have time for these projects. But in this season, I just really want to take the time to enjoy my home and pour into this space. I look forward to sharing more with you in future videos as we tackle some of these home projects this season.